Hi, my name is Dina. I'm back today with another video for Potomac Beads. Today we're going to be making my bracelet called Bird's Eye View. So gather up your supplies listed down below and meet me back and I'll show you what to do. Okay, so for the first step we're going to be using mainly just our 8/0 seed beads. We're going to be doing a what I call a modified herringbone stitch. There again, I don't know if that's called right or not. It may be just a square stitch, which is fine. Whatever the name is, this is what we're doing. So I have the black or the smoke colored dragon size thread called size 8 on my needle today. I also have a stop bead down at the end. I went ahead and used one of the same colors of the 8/0s that I'm using currently because we'll probably use that one at the end of the product anyway. So I have 2 beads on my thread, pulling that down to the bottom, and then I'm going to go back through the first bead that I added. And this is why I call this one modified herringbone. There again, I don't know, there's probably another name for it and I'm just not understanding what it is just yet. So put 2 more beads on your thread or on your needle. You're coming out of the left bead, go down the right bead. Now in traditional herringbone, you would just go straight up this bead and then start the next stitch. But on the one that I'm doing, I'm going over to the left side, which is where I started with, and going up both those beads. So then the next stitch, you would add 2 more beads. You're coming out of the left side, you're going to go down the right side and just the 1 bead. Now you have your beads like this. Now you're going to go directly over to the left side and go up the 2 beads on the left. And now you're set up for your next addition. So this is all the first part of the bracelet is. And in order to do a bracelet, let's see, this is one of my colorways. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep this one but this one is about, you can't see, this one is about a little over 6 inches long. It's about 6 and almost a quarter. So in order to do that, you need to have 30, I had to remember the number, you need to have 30 of your rows of your modified herringbone / whatever it's called. So we already have 3 done, so now you need to do 27 more rows. After you get that done, meet me back and I'll show you the next step. Okay, so now we have our 30 rows of our, more than likely it's called square stitch. Modified herringbone something. Whatever it's called. We've got 30 rows of it now. So now we're going to add our purl, and then we're going to add a few more rows of this, our second purl, and then finish out the other side of it. So to add your purl, go ahead and pick up one of your 6mm pearls. Add 2 of your 8/0s also. Let that fall. Now we're going to go back through the purl, and then we're going to finish the stitch similar to what we were doing earlier, where we go back down. So now they sit like that. We're going to go back down the right hand side, 8/0, below the purl, and then we're going to go up the left hand side, and then to get ourselves ready for the next round, we're going to go through the purl and then come out the left hand side of the next stitch. So now you should be set up for the next row. So go ahead and put on 2 more rows. So you want a total of 3 rows in between your pearls. And don't worry too much if these rows are not sitting very nicely on top of your purl. We're about to come back and we're going to add some beads on either side of it here in a little bit. So don't worry if that looks a little wonky at the moment. We will get it fixed. So then here's our third one, and then we're going to add our second pearl in the same fashion as the first. So pick up your pearl, plus 2 more 8-ohs, let those fall, and we're going to go back through the pearl, get those beads to sit somewhat nice on top of the pearl. Doesn't have to be perfect, we'll fix it in a second. Go down the right hand side, go back up the left, go back through the pearl, and come out the left side of your 8-oh that you added on top of the pearl. Now for my bracelet and the clasp that I'm using, I'm going to need about 30 rows or so. So we've already got the 1 row done. So now we need to do 29 more rows, just like we did over here at the very beginning. And then meet me back at the end and I will show you what to do, because we're going to add another bead on here in the peak, similar to this. So I'll show you how to do that because I messed up on this one. I didn't do it correctly. So I'm going to show you how to do it the right way. So meet me back and I'll show you that. Okay, so now we have 30 rows of our stitch, 2 pearls, and 30 more rows on the other end. So what I'm going to end up doing is using an 8-oh bead to attach my clasp with. So I'm using one of the Claspgarten clasps, and it's one of the one strand clasps. So I'm going to use a jump ring. I'm going to put this bead on the end of the clasp, sitting like this, or in the end of the bracelet, so that way I can use a jump ring and attach the two together. And that's how I'm going to attach my clasp. So to get our bead to look like this, you have to do something a little bit different. It's not hard though. It's pretty easy. So coming out of the left hand side of your bracelet, pick up your 8-oh. You can bring it all the way down to the bottom if you want. And we're going to go right back through that left hand bead. And that puts it kind of sitting a little funny there in the center. Then we're going to jump over to the right hand bead. And then we're going to go through. Doesn't matter which way, you can go from top to bottom, or you can go from bottom to top. I'm just going bottom to top. So go back through that 8-oh, and then go back down your right hand side thread, or right hand side bead. And then that puts your 8-oh sitting. It's a little tight right now. I have tight tension sometimes. That gets your 8-oh sitting right there, so you can add a jump ring and attach your clasp. So let me get you set up for the next step, or the next step. So this part, pretty easy. You're already coming down your right hand side, so just go straight down the right hand side that you just added. Just making sure not to pull too tight when you pull your thread, because if you pull too tight, it's going to make your bracelet kind of wobble back and forth a little bit. And it's going to do that already a little bit anyway, but we're just trying to keep that from happening too much. So where you want to stop is that right handmost bead just above your last pearl that you put on. And then that's where you want to be set up for the next step. So get to that point and then I will show you the next step. Okay, that next step is going to be, we're going to add some beads on the outer edge of our pearls. So coming out of that right hand bead right there on top of your first pearl, put 4 of your 8-ohs on your needle, and then go ahead and go down the 3 right hand beads on this side of the bracelet. Now you'll be set up to where you can add, you're sitting just above that second pearl, or the first one that we added, and then we're going to add 4 more of our 8-ohs, and then go down just that right hand bead below that next pearl. Now we're going to go back through the left hand side and then come out, and then I need to add some more 8/0s. And then we're going to add 4 on this side. We're going to go up the right hand bead or the left hand beads in between the 2 pearls and then come out. And then add 4 more to cover up this last side of the pearl, just like that. And even the bracelet just like this looks pretty cool, especially if you were to do just, you know, 3 or 4 and then put another pearl, then 3 or 4 of the stitches, then put another pearl, and then have this wrapped around the sides of them and everything. This actually looks pretty neat just like that. So, but we're going to make it a little bit nicer. So on this next step, we're going to add 11/0s, and we're going to square stitch them on the outer edge of the 4, what are these? The outer edge 4 8/0s that we just added. So we're coming out of that left hand side bead. We're going to go back down the right hand, which is the one that's directly above the pearl sitting here. And I'm going to go ahead and go through that first 8/0 that we added on this side, on the right hand side. Now pick up one of your 11/0s, and we're going to square stitch this bead onto that first 8/0, and I'm going to go ahead and go through the next 8/0 in line. Pick up another bead and go through the next one. We're just going to go through the 4 8/0s that we added on either side of the pearls. So once you get down to this 4th one, go ahead and pass through those 3 that are in between the 2 pearls, and then continue on to that first of the 4 of the 8/0s around this pearl. And then we're going to add those 4. We're just basically following the path that we just put on with our beads. And then once we get these 4 on, then we just jump over to the left hand side like we've been doing. And then we continue on with the left hand side. So I'm coming out of that right hand bead below the pearl. I'm going to go through the left hand bead and go through the first bead on the left side. So that's all you need to do on the left side. So add your 11/0s in the same fashion, and then I'll meet you back up here at the top and show you the next step. Okay, so my thread and needle is coming out of that first bead on top of the top pearl on the left hand side. We need to get to that first 11/0 that we added over here on the right. So go down the right hand bead, and then that first of the 4 on the right side, and then jump up to your 11/0. Now we're going to connect all those 11/0s excuse me, on top of the pearl. So we were going to add 3 11/0s, then we're going to go through the 4 11s that are on the left of the top pearl, and take it one at a time if your needle's not letting you go through all of them at the same time. Then here at the bottom of this pearl, we're going to add 3 more 11s, and then we're going to go through those last 3 beads plus the first one, so that first, or those 4 beads, the 4 11/0s on this side. Now we're going to continue on through that first of the 3 that we added in between the 2 sides. We're going to skip that second bead, and then we're going to go through the 3rd one, and then the 4 that were on the left side. one doesn't want to stick out well. There we go. That's better. Continue on through that first of the 3 beads. And try not to get your stuff wrapped around. And then go through, skip over that second bead of the 3 that are on the bottom of the pearl, and then continue on through the 4 that are on the side. And then that's number 4. And then now you have it set up like that. So now we need to get down to this pearl down here. To do that, we're already coming out of the 4th 11-0, which is the first one that we added in the last step. So I'm going to go down to the 8-0 just below it and work my way around until I'm coming out of the 8-0 on the right hand side to do the same thing down here. So now I'm coming out of that 8-0, which is the first of the 4, and I'm going to jump up to the 11 up there on the top. So I'm going to do the same thing with this second pearl down here, and then meet me back and I'll show you how to do the embellishment in the center in between the 2 pearls. Okay, now that I have both of my pearls with the almost looks like cat's eye type view, if you look at it like this, almost look like cat's eyes. But I named it bird's eye view because the embellishment here in the center made it look almost like a beak. So that's what we're going to do next. So I'm coming out of the 11-0, which is the first of the 4 11-0s on the right hand side. I'm going to come out, move my thread and needle to come out of that second bead on the top here that we added in between, that we skipped over the second time through. So I'm going to come out of there. So now we're going to do a double right angle weave stitch. Now our peaks on the top and the bottom are going to be these 11-0s here. So the sides are going to be a 15, 11, and a 15. So that's one side. Then we have to add a 15, 11, 15 for the second side. Third side. And then your fourth side. So those are your 4 sides. So you have 15, 11, 15 4 times. Then we're going to come straight back through the 11-0 that we're coming out of at the moment. And that puts kind of like a circle on top of that. So to finish the stitch out, we want to go back through that 15, 11, and 15, the first ones. And then here is where we're going to add another 11. Then we're going to pass through the next 15, 11, and 15. Trying to get this to where you can still see it, but I can hold it easier. Now this 11 is already there, so we want to go through that second bead that we skipped there on the bottom of that pearl. Then we're going to continue on through the next 15, 11, 15. And pull that tight so it pops that 11 in between those 2. Then we're going to add our last 11 and then go through the last 15, 11, 15. Now if you like to, you can always just reinforce that. You don't have to. It actually looks kind of good as it is, but I'm going to go ahead and reinforce if my thread and needle will let me, because sometimes those 15s are quite small on the interior and the size 8 thread sometimes does not want to go through. Okay, so I just skipped over that 11-0 down there on the bottom that is sitting on top of the pearl, and I'm just going straight through the 15, 11, 15 combination until I get back to the purl again. Now, the only other thing that we need to do after we get this reinforced, which my needle is being a little difficult at the moment, so I'll probably just finish this off screen. But all you have to do now is tie off your thread if you like to. If you have enough thread, I have cut in quite a bit. You might be able to get yourself down here on this end, because this stop bead is going to end up looking just like the bead that we have here on this side. So if you need to rewind back to that section to figure out how to get that stop bead to look like that, what you'll end up just doing is just taking it off of the thread and then just repositioning it to make it look just like that, so you can add your clasp on. So go ahead and reinforce your little beak portion if you like to, and then tie your thread off, or work your way down here and get that done, and then I'll show you how to add your clasp. Okay, our bracelet is almost done. So that's what it looks like, and see how it kind of makes it look like a beak there in the center. That's why I called it bird's eye view. So moving down to one of the edges, you want to take one of your jump rings, open it up. This one just happened to be already open, the two that I had gotten out of the package. Open it up, put it through your 8/0 that's sitting there on the end, and just be gentle with it. Sometimes you have to kind of just nudge it in there just ever so slightly. Now you want to make sure that you're going to put your clasp on to where it's your nice part of your clasp is facing upwards. So just make sure you're putting it on the clasp in the right direction, and then close up your jump ring. Whenever possible, I like to try to keep the clasp put together completely, because almost always whenever I'm putting a bracelet together or even a necklace and I take the clasp apart, it almost always ends up in the wrong direction. So to keep that from happening, I always keep it on there. So I'm going to the next bead and whoops, throwing my jump ring around. Then I'm going to put that one through there, and then this way I can just grab the other end, making sure I don't twist anything, and then just go through that portion to connect the clasp to the bracelet. And now you have this beautiful Claspgarten clasp attached to your bird's eye view bracelet. Thanks so much for watching my bird's eye view bracelet tutorial. Again, if you're missing any supplies, that link is listed below. That'll take you to PotomacBeads' website, so that way you can purchase anything that you need. Thanks again for watching, and stay tuned for the next video because I know it'll be a good one.